And we're back. So welcome back to the Pokemon VGC UK National Championships 2016. Once again, I am Jay Blake, and I'm joined by the ever-present and ever-awake Scott Glaser.
Somehow.
Yeah, that coffee must be really working magic on you.
Yeah, it seems like it. I mean, it's been a long weekend, but fun so far.
Yeah, I mean, well, speaking about people being back, it looks like we've got a bit of a heavyweight battle coming onto the stream today. We've got Lee Provost coming back, so obviously he won earlier today, and he's going to be facing against Alejandro Gomez. So two exceptionally good players in from the European community.
I think these players are both, it's one of the few matches you'll get to see where both of them are a real threat to become world champion this year. Great to see them both playing so well today. Winner of this definitely guarantees themselves a spot in the top cut. I'm certainly expecting to see both of them make it either way, but we should get a really great showdown here. And even if they both make it, having that higher seed in the top cut can make a big difference. So whether it's you're jockeying for position or just clinching their spot, this is a really important match.
Well, I mean, we've seen how well Lee played earlier today, and Alejandro obviously is a dedicated Pokemon player. He's top cut worlds in the seniors division twice already. He's had a really good regionals performance at this point. So really excited to see what they're going to bring to the table. And we're going to go into team preview. And the team you can see on the screen right now is Alejandro's. So that is Salamence, Cresselia, Groudon, Kangaskhan, Thundurus, and Kyogre. And Lee once again is bringing Rayquaza, Kyogre, Ferrothorn, Hitmontop, Crobat, and that Togekiss.
Yeah, so kind of cool to see what Alex has chosen to do with his team. We've seen him using Bronzong most of this year. Cresselia instead now, and I kind of really like that. We haven't seen nearly as much of the Big Six as we have in previous tournaments, and that's a lot of what Bronzong's better against than Cresselia, so it may have been a very savvy call here. And we've seen a lot of players making good decisions about what might be in the field and adjusting their teams accordingly, and these tweaks by Alex might be what it takes for him to win it all.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, obviously Bronzong offers that offensive presence against Xerneas, which we haven't seen crazy amounts of today, so or on stream at least. So for the Cresselia call, I mean, Salamence is really prevalent. Lee has that Rayquaza on his side of the field, so maybe it can put in a bit more work.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I think there's a lot of things about this matchup that are both fun and tricky for both players, where neither side really has an advantage, but there's a handful of Pokemon on both teams that have the advantage against the other. We saw how well Lee can shut down Groudon before, so that's going to be tricky for Alex. But Salamence is a great matchup with Rayquaza usually, and it's a lot of back and forth here, and definitely no clear favorite going into it.
I think this first game is going to be a bit of an information tester, just trying to see what everyone is going for. And obviously Lee is led off with his usual lead, that Hitmontop and Kyogre. Again, a very historic lead from him. And here we go with the Kyogre on Alejandro's side of the field with the Salamence, who is going to drop the Intimidate while Lee's Hitmontop returns in kind.
Yeah, I thought we'd left Top Ogre in 2010, but here we go again.
No, he loves it. He loves it. He's been using it all season. If it isn't broke, don't fix it.
No, and he plays it so well. I mean, I think that's something that gets lost sometimes when players are picking teams. But when you know your team's matchups as well as he does, it's a huge advantage. And he's just consistently great every game.
So the first bit of information that's been revealed already is that it looks like Lee's Kyogre might be faster than Alex's. So obviously, there is the chance that they have the same speed potential, but this is the first information that both players have as to what could happen this turn.
Yeah, I think that's good information to an extent. I think if I'm both players, I probably anticipate that. The Rayquaza Kyogre teams tend to be quick. Alejandro, known for running a Trick Room mode, so typically when you have that, you train your Pokemon to be a little bit slower so you can underspeed other Pokemon. So good information, but probably nothing that they're not. Yeah, they get what they're expecting, which is helpful sometimes too.
Yeah, so obviously Hitmontop has the ability to use the Fake Out, so it can target down either Kyogre and Salamence and shut it down for this turn, giving Kyogre the chance to get off another one of those big water spouts.
Yeah, it could. I mean, Ice Beam also potentially the Salamence here. Salamence both the Pokemon that can dish out the most damage on Alex's team and also the one that's most likely to faint, so tricky turn.
Okay, so here we go. Salamence is going to Mega Evolve. Possibly it might want to protect and get that speed advantage from that Mega Evolution provides it. Here goes the Fake Out directly onto the Kyogre on Alex's side of the field. Oh, there's a substitute coming out from the Salamence on Alex's side of the field, which is one of those tech moves that we were talking about previously. And as you mentioned, the Ice Beam coming out from Kyogre to take out that substitute.
Yeah, really nice play there. On Lee's side, you probably think, I'll just fake out Kyogre. Salamence is either going to protect or I'm going to get this knockout, so it's a really safe play. With Substitute, not true. Does lose some health, but
Sticks around for one more turn.
Yeah, stays around and gets rid of that fake out. So now this turn, slightly better position and didn't really give up much to do it other than revealing that move.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that Lee will have to bear in mind for later on in the match when, or for a second set, second match, where this element has the ability to put up a substitute and just reduce the amount of damage it's going to be taking at the cost of a little tiny bit of its HP.
Yeah, substitute really strong this year, especially on quick Pokemon like Salamence, where everything does so much damage that being able to block one hit and only taking a quarter of your health and damage is a really good trade most of the time.
So Hitmontop is going to return to Lee's battle box, and we're going to bring out Rayquaza here. So the airlock ability will be coming into effect, and the effects of the weather will disappear. The rain won't be doing as much damage boosting as it should be. Kyogre on Lee's side will protect, and another substitute coming out from Salamence, which is kind of free at this point. And there's the Scald coming out from Kyogre on Alejandro's side of the field, and Rayquaza is going to take that really well. There's a lot of, that special defense is quite high on the Lee side of the field. I mean, previously in some of his other performances in the Glasgow regional in which he got second, he was using an Assault Vest Rayquaza. So it looks like he might have brought that back to the table.
Yeah, Alejandro definitely learning something there. I mean, we've seen a lot of players use very, very frail Rayquaza. This one's playing a different game, and one I think is really smart. Losing your restricted Pokemon easily is almost always a bad strategy in this game. And, Rayquaza, it's one of its weaknesses, right? It's normally easy to knock out. I think this allows Lee to play, a more conservative game than other Rayquaza players. However, he's still in a tough spot. Giving up that substitute for free to Salamence makes this matchup much more challenging, and Alejandro has a lot of pressure now with Kyogre in a decent spot and Salamence able to do a lot of damage to either of these Pokemon.
So we're going to see the Mega Evolution coming out from Lee's Rayquaza, giving a mighty roar, and going to go big a swish, swish. And so here we go. We're going to see the Delta Streams activating, getting rid of the rain. So the flying type Pokemon will take less damage for super effective attacks. And Salamence is going to protect, so keeping that substitute around for a little bit longer to protect itself from some of those big hits that Scott was talking about earlier. Extreme Speed coming out from the Rayquaza into the protect. And here goes the Water Spout. Salamence is going to take no damage at all, and Kyogre's going to just eat it up a little bit. Here comes an Ice Beam from Kyogre. The Mysterious Air Current is going to weaken that, and also if it is an Assault Vest, which it probably looks like it is, it's just not going to do that much damage as you'd expect. Yeah,
with almost any other item now, Rayquaza would have been knocked out. So we're seeing the value of that, probably that Assault Vest. But also we're seeing the value of Salamence's substitute. I think that's the key to playing with substitute, is knowing that it kind of acts like a follow me, where as soon as that substitute goes up, Salamence just seems a little bit scarier, and a lot of people will try to double target into substitute. So if you can hit those protects, you can really get a big advantage. And effectively by using substitute, he's now blocked 2 attacks already without actually breaking his substitute.
Well, I mean, it is such a cute animation, so, I mean, obviously people are just like, well, you're not one of the titans on the field, so I probably should just get rid of you in favor of something like Groudon or Kyogre. So maybe that's why I want to target it down a little bit. So here comes the Extreme Speed going on to the substitute again. So Rayquaza obviously doesn't want it to stick around any further. Lee doesn't want it to stick around any further. Salamence coming out from behind the substitute and going back again. Wow, so he obviously really wants to keep that substitute up, and there's the Ice Beam coming out from Kyogre, the double target onto the substitute, and again, just sticking around, keeping it alive, making sure that if any spread attacks are going to be used on like Kyogre, they're going to be reduced by the presence of that substitute. The Ice Beam coming out from Primal Kyogre onto Mega Rayquaza is going to knock it out, so the Delta Stream is going to go down from Lee's side of the field. And a restricted legendary Pokemon down for Lee.
Yeah, we're really seeing the power of his Salamence. It hasn't really seemed like it's done much, but that game of hide and seek has allowed Alejandro to knock out Rayquaza without really giving anything up other than most of Salamence's health. And it still has the opportunity to attack now, almost definitely the quickest Pokemon in the field. That double target would have allowed it to be knocked out by Extreme Speed, except the Pokemon that knows that move also not on the field anymore. Really nice play by Alejandro so far, and probably really frustrating to play against if you're Lee.
Yeah, I mean, it's a well-managed substitute game. He's protected the Pokemon very well, and it just reduces Lee's options and also forces him to focus his attention a bit more. So Hitmontop's going to come back in, and we've got an Intimidate going off onto Salamence and to Kyogre. So Salamence's Double Edge will be doing much less damage because I believe it's still suffering from the Intimidate before. So if it's going to use any attacks, it's probably going to be one of those Hyper Voices. We might want to see a Protect here to stop it from taking another double target from Lee. Hitmontop has the ability to stop Kyogre or Salamence in their tracks today.
Yeah, a tough spot for Lee, though, where it's very important that he makes a good play here to get back in this game. And Hitmontop can potentially do that in a lot of different ways. It learns Fake Out, it learns Feint, it learns Wide Guard, so lots of potential options.
And there comes the Fake Out from Hitmontop onto the Primal Kyogre, and there goes the double edge. Ooh, 1 HP left over, and that activates the Focus Sash. So Lee's been showing the and then Salamence feints to the recoil. So a nice little cheeky survive on Lee's side of the field. We've got an Ice Beam coming out from Primal Kyogre on Lee's side. Going to do some chip damage to the Kyogre. Oh, and a freeze. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, I was just thinking, it's a shame for Lee that he didn't anticipate Salamence knocking itself out and using a water-type move instead, but apparently it was his plan all along.
No. I mean, as Daniel Nolan said, you gotta factor in these chances to get some serious status conditions like poison or frozen. Most competitive players usually rely on stuff like freezes.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, one interesting thing here, though, is that with Kyogre often being taught Scald lately, maybe not as devastating as it looks.
So there we go. We've got a Thunderbolt coming out from the Thunderous onto the Kyogre, reducing any damage that a Water Spout might do to it, and an Ice Beam in return going onto the Thunderous, revealing the Citrus Berry. And so trading hits from the Kyogre to the Thunderous, and a close combat coming out from the heavily damaged Hitmontop to do some significant damage to Kyogre, and let's see if it can unthaw itself and do some damage back. Oh, Scald, of course. Yeah, we'll definitely. So if you're using Scald, it will definitely unthaw you if you're frozen, and it will knock out Hitmontop from 1 HP.
Yeah, the cost of that freeze only ends up being that he has to use Scald instead of a spread attack like Water Spout and do a little bit of chip to Kyogre. But still, that could have been a lot worse, right? Kyogre going to have a hard time doing too much for the rest of the game, but not having a frozen Pokemon on the field always helps. Even if it's freeze is sometimes worse than being knocked out, basically, because it eats up that slot and makes it easier to target your other Pokemon. So Scald paying dividends there. Mostly a consistency move, but it's got that trick too.
Yeah, exactly. And so Ferrothorn is coming in as Lee's final Pokemon alongside that Kyogre. We haven't actually seen the last Pokemon that Alejandro has brought to the match. So if it's a Groudon, there could be a bit of an issue on Lee's side of the field.
Yeah, you'd expect it to be, and that would be a really great spot for him. It's kind of a shame of, or I guess the strength of not having to use your last Pokemon this long is that, you get a lot of information, and now it's much easier for Alex to close this game than it is for Lee.
So the Thunderous is going to protect itself, doesn't want to take any unnecessary damage. Kyogre's going to drop a Scald onto the other Kyogre, knocking it out. And, well, it depends on... Ferrothorn can't do anything here because of the Protect. So Kyogre goes down. Ferrothorn's going to launch a Gyro Ball, which would do some damage to Thunderous, seeing as it's so fast, but obviously it resists. And here comes Groudon onto the field, like we said, putting Lee in a bit of a sticky situation.
Yeah, and the weaknesses of this Groudon team is typically, it's tough to play it against Rayquaza and Kyogre, but by leaving it till the end of the game, all of the problems for Groudon have been eliminated. Primordial Sea now being negated by Desolate Land, Rayquaza nowhere to be seen, and advantage Groudon in Game 1.
Yep, so Thunderous can obviously launch a Thunderbolt onto that Kyogre and put it in range for Groudon to clear it up. So Ferrothorn doesn't like being in this position either. Obviously staring down against a big, molten, legendary Pokemon doesn't really work if you're a Steel and Grass type.
Yeah, the only really way you could normally see an out here is if Kyogre was able to attack and maybe freeze Groudon, but you can't do that during Desolate Land at all.
So here comes the Thunderbolt onto the Kyogre, as you'd imagine, leaving at 27 HP, and the Fire Punch coming out from Groudon onto the Ferrothorn, which is going to take it out pretty easily. The Iron Barb's damage going onto the Groudon, but now it's a very heavily damaged Kyogre against two quite well-managed Pokemon. Yeah. Ice Beam coming out, as you said, from the Kyogre, doing some damage onto the Thunderous, maybe just wanting to see how much damage that move could do, a bit of information for the next game.
He gets the crit, which not as exciting as it normally is there. Unfortunately, Kyogre is, it's wearing its lucky fins this time, I guess. It gets the Ice Beam crit, the freeze with Ice Beam, neither of them really help at all.
No. So here goes that Fire Punch again. Alejandro choosing just to use that move instead of revealing any additional information for the next set. And the handshake has happened, and Alex takes the first game.
Yeah, very close game there, but Alex kind of had that one the whole way. I think the adjustment Lee's going to need to make here is finding a better way to deal with that Salamence. Alejandro just did an excellent job of kind of just making Lee waste just enough turns that he could whittle down that Rayquaza, and then the matchup flipped, right? I mean, when both Rayquaza and Kyogre are active, there's a big advantage for Lee, but as soon as he loses one of those Pokemon, then that advantage goes away. Kind of surprised to see Lee give up Rayquaza so easily, which easily in this case is still like being hit 4 or 5 times, right? But definitely something he's going to want to adjust for game 2.
Well, I mean, we were talking about it earlier, and Substitute is one of those fourth choice moves that we you couldn't really prepare for too well. You've got to think about it, but it might not be the first thing that comes to mind. So Alex is using that tech move there and really punishing Lee for making any assumptions. And as you said, managed it really, really well and made Rayquaza's life a bit more difficult.
Yeah, I would definitely use the whole 90 seconds on this team preview if I was Lee here, just to take some time. You know, the last game was close enough that you couldn't plan ahead too much. So like, okay, I understand why I lost game 1, so time to stop, think, and adjust my plan a little bit. I think he definitely had opportunities to win that game, but Substitute being present just kind of threw enough of a wrench in his plan that it was tough to adjust on the fly. And now he has time to think, like, okay, well, I know if I'm in that situation against Salamence again, I have to make it more difficult to get that Substitute up, while not putting myself in a position where if I double target his Protect, I instantly lose the game.
Yeah, so just going once more to Alejandro's team, which you saw on your screen a second ago. Salamence, Cresselia, Groudon, Kangaskhan, Thundurus, and Kyogre. Thundurus and Salamence leading. And then for Lee, we've got Rayquaza, Kyogre, Ferrothorn, Hitmontop, Crobat, Togekiss, and Togekiss coming out alongside Rayquaza.
Yeah, we see a very different strategy from Lee this time. All the previous games we'd seen from him on stream, leading that Kyogre and Hitmontop. We see, not only do we see Rayquaza leading out for the first time, but Togekiss, I believe, is the first time Lee has chosen to bring Togekiss to battle. So it'll be interesting to see what it can do here, taking advantage of Mega Rayquaza's ability to remove weaknesses if needed, which will be handy with Thundurus on the other side of the field.
Exactly. And so Lee finally moving away from his tried and trusted Hitmontop Kyogre lead, and the Intimidate from Salamence is going to do be a bit annoying for Rayquaza to deal with. So Togekiss in this situation has the ability to redirect any Thunder Waves coming into Rayquaza, which is obviously what it's there for, and also allows for a bit of chip damage, just to make sure that Rayquaza can get the most of damage that he wants to do. Thundurus is going to leave the field. Who's going to come in? It's going to be Cresselia, which is another adjustment that Alex has made. And Salamence is deciding to Mega Evolve. We're going to get rid of that Intimidate ability for the Aerialate ability, which will change normal type attacks into the Flying type, getting a same type attack bonus. And here goes another Mega Evolution. We're going to have Mega Rayquaza once again roaring to the sky, and it's going to activate that Delta Stream ability. And as Scott said, obviously reducing the amount of damage that Flying types take from super effective attacks. Salamence is going to Protect, no Substitute coming out on the first turn this time. And the Draco Meteor from Mega Rayquaza going onto the Cresselia. I mean, Cresselia is a very specially bulky Pokemon, so it's going to take it. A critical hit as well there from Lee's Rayquaza, which obviously wasn't the plan. But Togekiss now is going to give a Dazzling Gleam to test that Salamence, and the Protect coming in probably quite nicely.
Yeah, I like that play by Lee. He doesn't get baited by the potential of trying to just double target Salamence down after what happened in game 1. Had it used Substitute, Togekiss would have broken it anyway, and he gets a bunch of damage on Cresselia at little cost. Also important to note, he finds out, I guess he knew already, but Cresselia not holding a Citrus Berry, so he has to be careful with a different item, but he has done a pretty good job of getting it down into range where it shouldn't be too difficult to knock it out. So a strong first turn by Lee.
Yep, and so Cresselia is heavily damaged, as you say, and so maybe Alejandro is thinking of going for his Trick Room option this time around, making that adjustment, not really feeling that going to the same sort of strategy as the first game would be a good decision. Thundurus is coming in for Salamence, so he's just swapping between the 3 Pokemon that we've seen now. And Rayquaza is leaving the field, the Mysterious Air Current is going to disappear, and Hitmontop is going to come in from the back, and it's going to drop the attacking stat of both of these usually specially attacking Pokemon. Obviously, he wanted to bring that in on the Mega Salamence and reduce its physical attack, and an Icy Wind coming out from Cresselia, which is going to reduce the speed of Hitmontop and Togekiss, but it was hoping to catch that Mega Rayquaza and do some 4 times effective damage. There goes the Dazzling Gleam from Togekiss, and it's going to do some okay damage to both Thundurus and Cresselia, but not really the most powerful of turns.
Yeah, I like that turn a lot. I think if I'm Alejandro, actually. I mean, neither side really accomplishes much, but Hitmontop's fake out pressure, not quite the same when Togekiss is the Pokemon next to it as opposed to one of the restricted Pokemon. What is good for Lee that turn, though, is seeing Icy Wind from Cresselia. While some Cresselia do choose to use both Icy Wind and Trick Room, it's less common than, if this Cresselia is going a different route. I think based on the previous teams that Alejandro's used, when you see Cresselia in Team Preview, you assume Trick Room, but that's not necessarily a safe assumption.
Well, we talked about it earlier, and just sometimes having those Pokemon that are known for doing one thing and choosing something else could turn the tide of the game. So Hitmontop coming back out, he wants to conserve that Intimidate for later on in the match. The Thunderbolt is going to go onto the Togekiss with the Delta Stream activating once again and reducing the damage. And here comes a Gravity from the Cresselia. So thinking about later turns, and maybe he wants to bring one of his Primals in and get some big damage off. So all the Pokemon who have been flying and levitating are going to hit the ground now, which turns out to be everyone. And then the Dazzling Gleam coming in from Togekiss, doing a critical hit to Cresselia, but it's still hanging around due to its special bulk.
This poor Cresselia has been hit with 2 different critical hits, and it's still hanging on.
Yeah, just eats them up. Eats them up.
So I think that's the first time I've ever seen 4 Pokemon get taken down by Gravity. That's a pretty interesting counter, actually, to Lee's team. He has a bunch of Flying-type Pokemon to take advantage of Delta Stream, and Gravity takes away one of the greatest advantages of being a Flying-type. So nice move by Alejandro to have on the team. Otherwise, it'd be very difficult for him to attack Lee offensively with his Groudon. I
imagine that Alex probably would have factored in that he wanted Cresselia to leave the field at this point. So... well, actually, no, after setting up the Gravity, like, he needs it to go away from the field at this point so he can make the most of those Gravity turns.
Yeah, although, however, I mean, I don't think that Lee wants his Pokemon getting hit with Icy Wind either, so either way, I think Alejandro's in pretty good shape. So
the Thunderous is going to protect here, and the Icy Wind is going to come out from that Cresselia. It's going to do some damage to the Rayquaza and to the Togekiss, but because of the Assault Vest and also due to the mysterious air current, it's going to reduce the amount of damage to a very respectable and very low amount. So here comes a Dazzling Gleam again from Lee's Togekiss, and he hasn't revealed any other moves on that Pokemon.
Yeah, it's one of the more offensive Togekiss we've seen, not necessarily in the sense of doing a lot of damage, but in the sense of attacking frequently.
I think he might just be trying to keep the information back a little bit. He doesn't want to reveal too much about the set, just so he can maybe use that to his advantage later on if Alex tries to get a bit cute.
Yeah, I think so too. And to your point about maybe Alejandro wanting that Cresselia to be knocked out, I think definitely if I was Lee, I don't know if I would have used Dazzling Gleam that turn. If you're going to try to focus down the Thunderous, maybe leaving the Cresselia out there would have helped a little bit more. Now with Gravity in effect and Icy Wind having hit these Pokemon repeatedly, Groudon's in prime position to do some serious damage. He's going to need to because Alejandro is pretty far behind in the health game, but he has much better positioning now, and Lee's going to have to find a way to switch back into an advantage if he wants to take this one.
Yeah, and we've already seen that Alex's Groudon runs the Fire Punch, so maybe it's trained to be more physically attacking, which means that this Rayquaza with an Assault Vest would not appreciate taking a Fire Punch or a Precipice Blades at this point. So here comes the Hitmontop to lower that physical damage if Groudon is going to go for a Precipice Blades or for a Fire Punch. So Thunderous doesn't really care about that attack drop, but Groudon might. And next up we have the Thunderbolt coming out from Rayquaza. And from the Thunderous onto the Rayquaza, doing some respectable damage due to the lack of the Delta Stream. And there goes the Precipice Blades, putting both of those Pokemon in the yellow. Draco Meteor coming out from Mega Rayquaza onto the Primal Groudon, putting it just over half HP, which is a lot of damage. Groudon not usually known for its special defense. So just a bit of a pressure from Alex's side, and Lee is looking not too happy.
Yeah, I actually really like the way that Lee has played this so far, where he does a big chunk of damage to that Groudon, and now he puts himself in a position where if he plays his cards right, he's still in a good spot. Faking out the right Pokemon with Hitmontop is going to be a huge deal here. He definitely can't afford to allow these Pokemon to be knocked out at no cost. But it's kind of a difficult play where with the Pokemon being slowed down so much by Icy Wind, even Thundurus is pretty dangerous offensively now, and Groudon is a little bit horrifying where if you guess wrong about not faking it out into Precipice Blades, there's some serious trouble.
And there goes the feint into Groudon in case he wanted to get cute and try and protect. A Thunderbolt coming out from Thundurus onto that Rayquaza, which is going to survive the attack, but here comes a Fire Punch from Groudon onto the Rayquaza, doesn't want it on the field anymore, and that's a restricted Pokemon for Lee going down.
Yeah, that was a nice play for Alejandro, too. I mean, feint not really doing much. I think Lee expected Hitmontop to get knocked out there, but this is kind of one of the smart things you can do in this format against your opponent's unrestricted Pokemon, where Hitmontop's not really creating any offensive pressure, it's just helping its teammates attack. So by just kind of leaving it there's not a whole lot it can do. Close combat probably can't knock out Groudon at this point. Certainly can't knock out Thundurus with the resistance to fighting type attacks. So just allowing it to stay on the field might be a bit of an advantage for Alejandro here.
So we've seen on the Hitmontop that it has the close combat, it has the fake out and the feint. Lee hasn't revealed a fourth move on it. So it'd be interesting to see what that fourth move is, and maybe he can use that to his advantage later on in the game. So he brings in his other restricted legendary Pokemon, Primal Kyogre, and turning the rain on, so the sun will go away for Groudon. And let's see how Alejandro can push the pressure that he placed on Lee last turn.
Yeah, tough spot here. I mean, you have to be careful if you're Lee. You really don't want Kyogre being paralyzed, but also you've done a much better job at this point into getting to good position. Last game we talked about the importance of not coughing up Rayquaza quickly. This time, a lot more done. Even though Rayquaza was the first Pokemon to feint again, Alejandro's side is definitely not as healthy as last game.
So Thundurus is going to protect himself. And look, there's a wide guard. So we have the full moveset of Hitmontop now, and he's going to try and stop that Precipice Blade from doing any damage to his Pokemon. The Ice Beam coming out from Primal Kyogre, going into the protect of the Thundurus, and the wide guard is going to stop any damage that the Precipice Blades from Groudon is going to do. And Gravity ends.
And we do see that final move from Lee's Hitmontop. I think wide guard is definitely what Alejandro was probably assuming, but still in a nice position to be in now. It avoids that damage, otherwise Hitmontop would have been knocked out, but Thundurus's protect ends up being wise there, and another kind of fun situation that last turn where you'd think Groudon would be the bigger threat, but since it's facing down a Kyogre in rain, it almost has to protect and lets Lee focus down that dangerous Thundurus.
So yeah, it's again, we talked about it a lot today, but Lee, they're in a sticky situation in which both players now have 3 Pokemon. A lot of them are heavily damaged. If you pick up a knockout on one of these Pokemon, you're stuck with 2, and you can lose the Weather War. And that's a really important deal because obviously Groudon relies on the sun to avoid those Water-type attacks, and Kyogre doesn't appreciate not being able to use those Water-type attacks in the sun. And now we've got a double switch coming out, one from Alex going into that Salamence, and one from Lee going into Togekiss, which takes a Thunderbolt from Thundurus and is revealing Citrus Berry. Primal Kyogre is going to use Ice Beam onto the Thundurus to get rid of it. So that's leaving the field now, leaving Alex with just 2 Pokemon, the Salamence and the Groudon, which means the sun will be coming back in, but Lee's got the option to switch back out.
Yeah, that's a hugely important survival by Togekiss there. Because of that, he has the option now of switching out Kyogre and regaining control of the weather. Otherwise, even though he would have picked up that knockout and brought it to 2-2, since Groudon was switching in and Kyogre was already on the field, he'd have been in a much weaker position than he is in now. That's still kind of a tricky spot with both of Kyogre's potential partner Pokemon being in serious danger of being knocked out, but he can at least get the weather if he thinks it's more advantageous than attacking.
So yes, as Scott's just said, the weather is now back in Alex's favor, but for how long? Do we want to see, does Lee want to see Kyogre leave the field and preserve that rain, or is he going to protect the Kyogre, keep it around for one extra turn, bring the Hitmontop in, get the Intimidate, which is happening right now, so dropping the amount of damage that the Salamence can do with a possible double edge, or reducing the damage from that physical Groudon. And there's the substitute coming back out from Alex, a very important move from the first game. The Fire Punch coming out from Groudon, going directly into that slot, that Hitmontop slot. So not a great turn. Lee has lost the Weather War. This Ice Beam is coming out from Primal Kyogre, going into that substitute and knocking it out, but now Togekiss is coming back in, can redirect attacks for sure, but the sun is still going to be up.
Yeah, that was, I kind of feel for Lee. against the Salamence that doesn't know substitute, that's a beautiful play. You get up in a situation where instead of giving up or getting control of the weather war, you either get a fake out or you get the knockout on Salamence, and you're very likely that the combination of Togekiss and Kyogre is going to win against just Groudon. Unfortunately, this Salamence does have substitute. It's able to set that substitute up at very little cost, and now the weather is on Alejandro's side. Salamence gives up very little, and he's in a decent spot. I mean, I wouldn't say this game is over by any stretch of the imagination, but that definitely isn't what Lee was hoping for there.
Well, I mean, the most popular move for Kyogre in this situation, because of the fact that the water moves cannot be used under Desolate Land, is Ice Beam, which Salamence is extremely weak to, and Groudon is in range of a high damage roll to possibly knock it out.
Yeah, I think that's going to be very important here. Like, the first thought on Lee's side is definitely, oh, I'll just go for a Follow Me and an Ice Beam. If he does that and either hits into a Protect or doesn't get a knockout, he's probably going to lose this game. Really important turn.
So here comes the Protect from the Groudon. Here goes the Substitute from the Salamence, and it looks like Lee might be attacking with the Togekiss. So there's an Ice Beam coming out from the Kyogre, go onto the Groudon, misses, and the Thunder Wave from the Togekiss, revealing that additional speed control option, and the Salamence is protected by the Substitute.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what he was expecting to Thunder Wave there, with one Pokemon immune to Thunder Wave and the other one having a Substitute. So a little strange there, but we are learning more. I mean, once again, Thunder Wave showing its face. Usually only see it from Thundurus, but that's one of the cool things about Togekiss. It does have a very wide support move pool.
Yeah, so obviously Togekiss has access to the Follow Me, which would, if if Lee managed to get the Ice Beam off onto one of the other Pokemon, would be very helpful in winning the match. But now goes the Double Edge into the Togekiss, knocking it out, and Alex has put himself in a very commanding position. So some recoil damage coming from the Salamence behind the Substitute. The Ice Beam is going to come out from Lee's side of the field, taking on that Groudon. It's going to just barely survive. And there goes the Precipice Blade. It's a single target attack going into the Kyogre. Going to do about the third of the health. And you can only
time
imagine.
Time is up.
Oh, time is up. Wow.
Yeah. With the knockout there, it's very likely that Lee would have been able to pull that one off. But I believe that he's going to lose because only one Pokemon remaining to two.
Wow. That was crazy.
Yeah, I mean, Kyogre would have been at full health. Very, very unlikely that Lee would have lost a 1-1 tie, but just by barely hanging on there, Alex is able to take this one.
I mean, I didn't even see the time going down. I was so involved in the back and forth and the relationship of that match that I didn't even see the time coming to an end.
Yeah, I mean, it was very close there, too. I mean, just a couple more turns, the game probably would have ended naturally. I think also would have ended in the same result. I think either way, Groudon surviving or not surviving, that Ice Beam was going to make the game. But wow, I mean, time was kind of the one out Lee had left where, Substitute was going to work against Alex, and with the way that one played out, where, since it reduced its own health, it hurts his tiebreaker a little bit since it's based on the remaining HP left in your team. Really close one, but Alex able to come out on top.
Well, let's get Alex in for an interview right now, so don't go anywhere. We'll be back with the winner of our last match, Alejandro Gomez. And yeah, stick around. We'll be back after a short break. Welcome back, trainers. I am now joined by Alejandro Gomez, the winner of our last match between Alejandro and Lee Provost. So how do you feel after that last match?
Pretty well. I think that was a great match.
Oh, it was. I mean, the spectacle of it was incredible. I mean, it was, again, with the last match we saw Lee on stream, it was a very calculated, lots of switching, lots of trying to utilize the restricted Pokemon that you had available to you. But
yeah.
It looks like for you, one of the main players for you was Mega Salamence.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, my matchup was kind of rough, so I knew I had to play my best. I think I played pretty well, but I did one mistake. But I guess.
But I mean, you weren't.
It was paid off, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you weren't punished for it. And I mean, in that first game, you used your substitutes and your protects extremely well, just to limit the amount of plays that Lee could make. You managed to control that Rayquaza a lot. And obviously, like, Lee is running a particularly bulky Rayquaza.
Yeah, definitely.
And obviously, that's not something that you're used to playing against a lot. So how do you feel like the substitute really helped you in that regard?
Yeah, it definitely helped me.
So have you been using it a lot against other trainers today?
Not really.
Oh, really?
No.
So it's just a tech that you wanted to bring to the stream and just would help you in the matchup against Lee's team?
To be honest, not. But I mean, it helped me against him
Oh, okay. Well,
So,
that's
yeah.
fantastic. So, I mean, obviously, you've performed really well in the seniors division, top cup worlds twice. So, looking at the tournament today, how do you think how do you think your season's going? Do you think you're going to make it to the world? Do you think you're going to make a big splash in the World Championships this year?
Well, first I have to make it.
Yeah.
I need a top 16. So
With the performance that you're putting in today, it looks like you could probably get there.
I hope so.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I feel pretty well about my season. I think, well, I mean, I have been training a lot since, you know, Spain is on the organized play Pokemon.
Yeah.
The previous years, I played the game, but I mean, I really had to travel to get something.
Yeah.
And last year I didn't get anything. And you know, this year we have the organized play Pokemon, and well, I think it's going quite well.
Yeah, I mean, it makes it easier for you to put in performances like today. And are you traveling to any other national events?
Well, it really depends.
Depends on how it goes today, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I mean, after the performance you put in against another world's competitor like Lee, especially graduating into the Masters division, it's really great to see how well you're performing, and hopefully you can just continue this trend and move through.
I hope so.
Well, I mean, hopefully we'll get to see you on stream tomorrow as well. So, Alex, thank you for joining me. And guys,
Thanks to you too.
we're going to move away into another break, and yeah, don't go anywhere.